Hi there, my name is Lauren Rice, and this is my first video for the midterm for WST460 Women in the Body. This video will focus on the gendered body and what we know as gender, as well as the difference between biological sex and gender and how gender is reflected upon our bodies. The main source I will be using for this video is Judith Lorber and Patricia Yancey Martin's Chapter 8 and the Socially Constructed Body. So first, let's get to the basics. Sex is defined as either of the two main categories, male or female, into which humans and many other living things are divided on the basis of their reproductive functions and organs. So that's going to be the main difference between sex and gender, is that gender has nothing to do with your biological sexual organs and functions. Gender is defined as a social agreement that is created and maintained by society through social interactions. So, gender is socially constructed while sex is biological. But what is a social construct? It's a social mechanism or a category created and developed by society. It's a perception of an individual, group, or idea that is constructed through cultural or social practice. So what is gender and what isn't gender? Gender is a spectrum. It's a range of expression. It's how you relate to yourself and your own personal identity. Gender is not just male or female. It's not defined by body parts, sexual orientation, or determined by chromosomes. Some people may be confused by the idea of gender as a spectrum, especially cis individuals from a Western society. So cis individuals that's a female with female reproductive organs that identifies her gender as a female, or a male with male reproductive organs that identifies as a male. One of my favorite examples of gender being a spectrum, gender outside the female-male binary, is from a culture in the Zapotecas region known as Ithumis. I probably just butchered that pronunciation, but this is one of the last matriarchal societies left. Matriarchal societies are a family group or state which is governed by a woman who is the head of the family or the tribe. While modern-day matriarchal societies are rare, there are still a handful that exist today. In this Zapotecan society, there are three genders. The first gender is women, and they have the highest status and hold the most power in their society. While there is a stigma against lesbians, there's not a stigma against married women who have lesbian lovers. As long as the woman is actively procreating or already has a family, she is free to pursue her own desires. The second most powerful group in this society is what we would consider their third gender, feminine homosexual males. The last and least powerful gender is the masculine heterosexual males. We must also remember that their definitions of masculine and feminine also highly differ from ours. They see masculine as submissive, obedient, weak, and intellectually inferior, while femininity is seen as strong, dominant, aggressive, manipulative, nurturing, and intellectual. This clearly shows that gender has different definitions in different parts of the world, and in their society, it seems that lesbians and trans women would be the most suppressed group. Another example of a third gender would be the two-spirited individuals in the Zuni Native American tribe. In this tribe, along with other Native Americans, some individuals who identify as masculine and feminine are believed to be two-spirited, which means they literally have the spirit of each, a man and a woman, inside of them. They are seen as powerful leaders and healers within their tribes, and there is no stigma against whichever sexual relations they choose to have. To be two-spirited is a gift because that person can play two different positions, like on a sports team, which makes them more valuable, and they can be used in many ways to benefit their society. Another interesting way that the Zunis approach gender is that they do not assign gender identity until the child is ready, anywhere from 4 years to 12 years of age. Also, it's totally okay to change your mind about your gender later on. Change is accepted, understood, and even encouraged. And gender assignment is activity-based, not sexually or biologically based. Now that we understand the difference between sex and gender, and how gender is a social construction and seen in many different ways throughout the world, we will examine how these gender norms are further illustrated and reinforced by our own physical bodies. As discussed in the chapter, to say that bodies are socially constructed is not to deny their material reality or universality. Bodies are born, bodies die. Female breasts are usually able to produce milk for nursing infants, whereas male breasts usually cannot. Female mammals give birth, and male mammals do not. Male bodies have less fat and more muscle than female bodies. But when we ask which women's and men's bodies are beautiful, or what are the physical capabilities of human men and women in physical labor and sports, we are asking questions about social practices and judgments that vary by culture and ethnicity, time and place, and are different for the rich and the poor. Furthermore, members of a society construct their bodies in ways that comply with the accepted views of masculinity and femininity. They try to shape and use their bodies to conform to their cultures or racial ethnic groups' expectations of how their bodies should look and perform. We reinforce these gendered norms in so many unconscious ways: how we sit, eat, talk, argue, dress, and beyond. This bleeds into every area of our lives, our relationships. Everything about our social existence and our identity is tied to our gender. Our gender is an essential part of our identity. It's on our driver's license, our birth certificate, all of our official paperwork, and it's a major determining factor in who we are and how we view ourselves, which makes this incredibly difficult for a transgender or a gender-neutral person to exist within such a gendered space. So for these last couple of minutes of this video, I want to discuss a non-gendered person who is on the rise to superstardom. Her name is Ruby Rose, and last year she created this great video of her called Transformation. And it's her transforming from our society's accepted view of a beautiful woman into a man. Because she is a woman who is a lesbian, but she has a lesbian lover, life partner, but she likes to look beyond gender. She doesn't want to conform to what a female is expected to look like or a male is expected to look or act like. So she's found a good, in between the two with which she's comfortable. So this is an example of gender being fluid. It can change. It can transform in different ways as time goes by, and people might change their minds along the way, much like the Zunies feel about gender, that change is accepted and encouraged as long as you're your happiest self. So we're going to look at a couple of screenshots from this video to see how Ruby transforms and the kind of impact she's making for those who are non-gendered or do not want to conform to one of the genders. Here it is.